Okay everyone, now in this tutorial we're gonna actually go ahead and continue building our fourth Android application. So as you can see here, here we actually see some errors. Okay, the Android Studio is complaining and we need to actually first fix these errors in order to actually run our application. So let's actually fix this first error here, as you can see here. Let's actually hover our mouse pointer over this error area and see what's the error. As you can see here, it says there is no default constructor available in com.example.mortazasadat.app4.animal. Okay, it refers to this animal class here. Okay, so it says that there is no default constructor here, and it's right because we actually created a custom constructor in this class. As you can see here, this is our custom constructor. Okay, so when we actually create a constructor in our class, the compiler doesn't provide a default constructor for us. Okay, so when we actually create a constructor in this animal class, we need to actually implicitly or explicitly call the constructor of the superclass. Okay, so now we are inside the scope of this animal class here. Okay, and this animal class extends from the object class, and this means that this animal class inherits all of the features and behaviors that are inside of this object class into this animal class. Okay, so this class inherits all of that features that are inside this object class. Okay, so inside the object class, which is a predefined class in Java, we've got a constructor. So let's actually go inside the object class and see and find that constructor. Okay, so I need to actually hold the command key and then click on this object here. And if you are using a Windows machine, you need to actually hold the control key and then click on the object. Okay, so as you can see here, this is the constructor inside this object class. Okay, and this comment says constructs a new instance of object. Okay, so as you can see here, this is that constructor, and this constructor doesn't actually accept any arguments, and as you can see here, there is no implementation inside this constructor. Okay, so let's go back inside the animal class. As you can see here, we need to actually implicitly or explicitly call the constructor of the superclass, because we are actually inheriting all of the features of this object class into this animal class. The compiler does provide a default constructor for us. Okay, the default constructor that is inside of this object class. Remember that a default constructor is a constructor without no parameters. Okay, and the constructor that is inside this object class has no parameters. Okay, so inside this animal class, because we are inheriting all of the features of this object class into this animal class, the compiler does provide a default constructor for us. Okay, so we don't need to actually explicitly initialize the constructor of the superclass. Okay, so the superclass is object. Okay, and inside the animal class, we don't need to explicitly initialize that constructor that is inside this object class. Okay, the compiler does provide a default constructor for us. But inside this cat class, as you can see here, there is another story here. Here in this class, in the scope of this class, we are actually extending all of the features that are inside of this animal class into this cat class. Okay, we are inheriting all of the features and behaviors that are declared as public into this cat class. Okay, so inside this animal class, let's actually hold the command key and then click on animal here. As you can see, this is our animal class. Okay, inside this class, I have a custom constructor here. I created my own constructor for this animal class. So inside this cat class, we need to actually initialize the constructor of the superclass. So the constructor of the superclass is this constructor. Okay, so inside the constructor of this cat class, we need to initialize the constructor of the superclass. Otherwise, the compiler is going to actually complain and we would not be able to run our application. So in order to initialize the constructor of the superclass, which is this animal class, I just need to type in here super, okay? And then inside the parentheses, as you can see here, I need to actually pass in some values. Okay, let's actually hover our mouse pointer over this error area and see what's the error. It asks us to actually pass in some values for the name instance variable, and a value for the color instance variable, a value for the amount of speed instance variable, and a value for the amount of power instance variable. Okay, you may wonder that where these instance variables come from. We don't have these instance variables in this cat class. So why do this constructor ask us to actually pass in values for these instance variables? Because we are actually inheriting all of the features of this animal class into this cat class. We need to actually initialize those instance variables too. So inside this animal class, as you can see here, we've got these instance variables here, okay? Inside the cat class, we are actually inheriting all of these instance variables and methods, okay? But as you can see here, these instance variables are declared as private, okay? These instance variables are still part of the cat class. Those instance variables are not visible to this class, okay, to this cat class, because these instance variables are declared as private. Okay, so we need to actually pass some values to this superclass constructor in order to actually fix these errors. Okay, so how can we actually initialize those instance variables in this cat class? We need to actually provide some arguments inside the parentheses of the constructor of this cat class. Okay, so here now I want to actually provide some arguments, and then I want to actually assign those arguments to the instance variables of the superclass, which is the animal class. Okay, first of all, I need to provide a value for this string name instance variable here, okay, of type string, in order to actually initialize the name instance variable. Okay, so inside the cat class, first of all, I need to actually specify the data type of my argument, string, okay, and the name of my argument is name. Now I need to actually provide another argument for the color instance variable. As you can see, this is our color instance variable. So as you can see here, we've got this color instance variable. This is an argument for this color instance variable. So inside the cat class and inside the parentheses of this constructor, I need to actually provide an argument for the color instance variable, string, color, comma, and then I need to actually provide another argument for this amount of speed here, amount of speed instance variable here. Okay, so inside the cat class, I need to actually create another argument, int amount of speed, okay, comma, and then I need to actually provide another argument for this amount of power instance variable. Okay, as you can see, we've got this amount of power argument here, and here we are actually assigning this argument to this instance variable here. Okay, so inside the cat class, we need to actually create another argument, int amount of power, okay, comma. So now inside the parentheses of this super here, I can actually pass these arguments here. Okay, so name, comma, color, comma, amount of speed, comma, amount of power. Okay, so as you can see here, now the error is gone. Okay, we don't see any error here. Okay, because we actually successfully initialized the constructor of the superclass. Okay, so as you can see here inside the animal class, this is the constructor of the superclass, and this constructor actually accepts 4 arguments. Okay, and inside the cat class, we are actually passing these a value for those 4 arguments here. Okay, a value for the name instance variable, a value for the color instance variable, a value for the amount of speed instance variable, and a value for the amount of power instance variable. So here we are actually explicitly calling the constructor of the superclass. Okay,